Welcome to the Sold Too Early Sports Card Podcast, sponsored by Card Ladder. That's not Kai. I'm just chilling, bro. And we actually have here two guests today for the price of one. Some of my best friends in all of sports cards, who ironically enough both work for Alt. We have Matt, National Treasure, and Kaushik, the Iron Sheik. Matt, Sheik, how the hell are you guys doing?
We are doing great. Just finished a long work day, and there's no better way to end a work day than come on and hang out with you, Dave. Like, super stoked.
I mean, you can lie a little bit and say I'd rather go lay down and not do work, but I have to come on this podcast. Like you can be honest, it's okay. It's like
No,
top
there's
three
nothing else I would rather do in the whole world than come talk cards.
We've been trying to get on this podcast for a minute. You're a busy man.
First off, flattery will get you very far with me, so I appreciate that. Secondly, yeah, we're starting to look into more guests, so I appreciate that. Also, speaking of guests, I guess Kai's going to be a guest on our podcast because fuck him, he's not here today. So I did text him that if he was not going to be on the podcast today, he's getting bullied. So Kai, fuck you.
So yeah, actually, you know what?
And that's the episode. No, go for it.
Well, we'll have to bully Kai together.
Yeah, that's all. That's what this episode's going to be about. Not even about Alt itself, just about my co-host not existing. But anyway, Matt, Sheik, wanted to talk to you guys about Alt. Obviously, there's a lot of exciting things going on in the sports card world, good, bad, or otherwise, such as that Macau show that's happening in about 2 to 3 weeks. Matt and I were talking about it a little bit before Sheik, you're able to join. He is not attending. Sheik, are you going? Is a lot of representation from Alt going? What is that really going to look like for you guys?
Yeah, so actually we aren't attending, but
you are. Oh.
No, we are not. We're not. But there will be people from the sales team there.
Got it.
And they'll be just the thing is about that show is you don't know who you're going to meet because you may have not met them before. That's a high probability. Or the second thing is you just know them by Instagram handle and you don't know what they really look like. Same problem we always face at National where we need to be walking around with our Instagram handles and not our face, So I think it would be an exciting show. I wish I could go, but I think they're going to see probably the coolest Kobe and Curry cards known into existence.
Right.
It's really kind of crazy. Like, there's a real possibility that there are cards that have never surfaced online publicly, going to just be in showcases at that show, and they might not necessarily even be available. It will be more of like a flexing, like, hey, look what I got, look how cool I am type thing. And dude, I'll be honest, I'm kind of jealous. I would not swing that trip anyway. As a dealer, I imagine it'd be several thousands of dollars to even get there, and then for such a short period of time, it sounds like a lot. But if you can afford it and you're going either for yourself or your business or a company or whatever, good shit. I will be watching your content when you get home because that seems really cool.
There's a lot of things I don't know. Like, are they why haven't they had a card show before? Right? I ask that question all the time, and this goes into a different question. What's the amount of stuff that's there in Asia? Is 20% of the entire market in Asia? I don't know the answer to that because we don't know what's selling there. So I think that there's going to be like a lot of learnings. I found out recently that there is a competitor to like Card Hobby. I didn't even know that there was. So there's all kinds of apps actually out there that are selling cards that I'm learning even today.
Yeah. To me, the show's worth it for two types of people, right? I think it's worth it for the connections, right? Meeting people across the globe, right? The corporate world in cards. I think it's worth it for them to take the trip. And then I also really think it's worth it for the content and the influencers. I think these guys have a chance to launch their brand off of this show, right? Like our unknownness of what goes on over there is going to create this like interest in these vlogs that they've probably never seen before, right? That can't be replicated in a Dallas show. That can't even be replicated in a Toronto show. Right, like even as different as Toronto card shows are to America, there's still enough similarities there that it's not interesting enough to draw me in. The Macau card show, I'll be absorbing all of the content. Right, like,
I absolutely agree. I mean, a lot of people who went to the Toronto card show seemed like they had a good time. I saw a couple of influencers who I actually were there. Seemed like they're making good content. I'm not sure how much of it has been released yet. I think that show was just like this past weekend or a week ago, so Not exactly sure on the timing there, but I'll watch some content of that as it comes up with people I like. If you're going to Macau, even if I don't personally like you that much, I will be at least interested in seeing what you're producing because it is so foreign. And I hope that people who do go are able to actually take in the cultural aspects as well, because it is quite literally the other side of the world. Please take some time for yourself to explore if you're able to, because how many fucking times you can be able to do this because of sports trading cards? Like taking some of it.
If you can, I would like. Obviously, it might be short notice now, but maybe next cycle, make it a vacation too. You can go there, go for cards, and then check out China if you'd like. But Dave, this like brings us to a different point. Like we have always had the national on East Coast. It's very rarely even on the West Coast of this country. Maybe Macau could become the international national.
I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, no matter what, the cost of this trip alone is going to be, for the average person, $3,000 to $4,000. I know Matt and I just talked about this a minute ago, saying that when Alt was sending people, it's going to be about $4,000 they were expecting to pay per person. It's not cheap. Like that is a lot of money for anyone, the average, even the above average collector and vendor, just to get there. Not including food or travel expenses, or I guess not including food or like other like fun things you want to do, or even spending on inventory. It can be a very, very expensive time to even just get there and enjoy it. So I don't know if it'd be international, but unless you're like that top 0.01% of collectors who probably already have decent connections out there, it's kind of tough. I mean, the people who do travel internationally to Chicago for the National or AC or Cleveland this year probably already are like those well-known, typically European or Asian collectors who will travel regardless and be here for a couple weeks. I don't know if it'll be the exact same inverse if American collectors will do the same, but I'm not in that stratosphere, so I can't exactly comment on it.
I mean, another problem is when you have that type of overhead is you're under so much pressure to make flips to make that back, right? That's why I said earlier, the only two people I think it's worth to go for is corporate cards and then the influencers on the content. I don't think if I'm going there as a flipper, a dealer, it's worth it to me with that level of overhead. I can't bring employees. I'd have to do everything by myself. And that pressure would be built in, right? It's baked in, where I know I have to make back so much money just to break even on this card show. And I think that will hold back Americans from making this trip. To make on the dealer side, but it's entirely possible, Kaushik. Like if people go there and the stories are phenomenal, then you get that FOMO factor, and we know in this space it's FOMO. FOMO's everything, right? So if people go to Macau, it's a home run. The FOMO sets in, and then the next time they do this, the amount of Americans that go there quadruples.
I'm looking for one thing. Okay, a lot of people are looking at the cards, and the cards are going to be amazing. But I'm looking for user interviews, collector interviews. Can we get anybody to interview? I guess you want to call them dark horses. You can call them dark horses. We don't know who you are. So I want to know a little bit more about these guys that have the biggest collections in the world. And maybe a lot of them don't want to come on and speak, but there could be a couple. So I'm looking to see whether there's content like that.
I do wonder though, like, what is the language barrier going to be like if there is any? What are the cultural differences that, like, hey, if you were a flipper and you try to offer someone 75% of comps, what the fuck is going to happen? Are they gonna know what an app like an Alt is or a card ladder or anything like that to price check? They might have their own resources. I don't know. And you know what? That's the beauty of a whole different fucking side of the world is we get to learn these things. And the Americans who are going to be traveling there are pioneers in a way, quote unquote. And it's very interesting to see what's going to happen, what those stories do end up being, good, bad, or otherwise, because they are truly setting a new example for the international appeal of sports cards, at least from the American perspective, which I'm very much interested in seeing what that looks like.
So Alt will be also bringing, I don't know if they've hired them from within China or they're coming from here, but there will be an interpreter for them.
That's good. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on the language barrier, I have a language barrier when I go to Texas, the Dallas card show. So I don't know how I'm going to do in Macau.
I love the Dallas card show. I really do. But yes,
Nah,
they're.
I'm kidding.
even people here in New Jersey, I'm sure you're aware, there are some thick accents that you can't always understand. Usually from New Yorkers who transplanted back over here, and sometimes they're hard
Dave,
to go for it.
I got a question for you, Dave. So,
Sure.
right, this is the era of big shows. Like
Yep.
there were always these small shows, 250 tables or less. That there was a lot of shows, 100 to 200 tables before the boom. They were always going on, Nashville, etc. How the heck can there be shows in every place in America, even Hawaii, but New York State can't get a legit big show going?
It's a good question. I mean, Kai and I have had this conversation a few times. I've even actually had this chat with Santiago Sports Tyler, who is actually my local card shop, which is super funny. He went to Rutgers. I didn't personally, but like that was the college that my older brothers went to. Like I've been friends with him for a couple years. He wants to eventually plan a show, hopefully at that campus. And Rutgers could really hold a 3, 4, 5, 600 table show and be comfortable and successful. Probstein did a show last year, 2 years ago at the Mall of America, which for anyone who is not familiar is right next to MetLife Stadium. While that show was not a success, it was not due to the fact that people didn't show up. It was more of the layout. So the Mall of America is fucking gigantic. It's incredible. But the show was across like 3 different levels of the mall. So it was super confusing for people who like were not really directed properly. I did fine at it, but there were a lot of ways they could have improved it. I don't think they're doing it again. It's been a long enough time already. So we'll see. As for other major shows in New York and New Jersey, like that tri-state area, the East Coast National is very okay from what I've heard. What else really is there? Laz is starting to do some shows, but Laz NYC Cards, or everyone's Instagram name is hard, so I apologize. But Laz, who's a promoter of shows, opened up a shop and was more focused there, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now his shows are about 100 tables, give or take. I don't know. It's really kind of tough that we don't have these major shows that people want to travel to, because if you do it properly, you have in either New York State or New Jersey, you have 3 major airports people can fly into, and there is a lot of money here, and it's really kind of tough. I don't know. I don't recommend people traveling to the East Coast for shows because there's just nothing here at the moment.
Well, a couple things. So first of all, it wasn't at the Mall of America, Dave. It was at American Dream. Mall of America.
American Dream Mall. Sorry.
No, but it's okay. I'm just messing. And then
Yeah.
I went to Rutgers too. Tyler graduated the year following myself, and I think that's an excellent place for a card show, right? They have the basketball arena there. It's in the center of the state, right in between Philadelphia, which has proven they can sustain a card show, and New York, which has not proven. So maybe if you take that middle ground, you bring up these people from Philly, that's how you can get the show in the area if you combine the 2 cities together. The last thing I'll say is your last point of you wouldn't recommend it, right? There's a really bad connotation around shows in New York to the point now where it's gotten that it can never be good because no one will ever give it a shot and none of the people will ever come in because it's gotten such a bad rap. And to turn that around, it takes one big show to change that entire connotation. Someone's going to step up and do it, and it'll be a home run because the people are here.
I'm looking for an opportunity. Yeah. I want to travel to New York City.
Dude, it's New York in that area. Like there is money there, and there's a lot of collectors in this area who will pay good money to set up or to buy and pay cash and do everything great. I
also Dave, sorry. This is coming from 3 collectors of modern sports cards. Okay.
Yep.
New York shows, if you're a vintage collector, awesome. Right. So our perspective, we don't hear that perspective. There's a ton of vintage dealers at the New York card shows that you maybe don't get at a Dallas card show. Right. Mm-hmm. So for us, it doesn't work. But if you're a vintage collector, the New York shows are home runs.
Well, it's old money. That's the issue, or issue, right. Quote unquote.
So it's a different type of card show. And for us, it does not work. The modern collector, it does not work. There's not enough inventory there. Dealers are very rigid. Maybe that's another thing, the New Yorkers and their rigidity. But if you're a vintage collector, I do recommend the New York shows, just to add on there.
Yeah, I mean, White Plains is definitely a vintage. I can tell you that for a fact, as I'm sure you know, because Did you go to that show when you used to live up in New York or no?
100%. As a kid growing up, that was my show, and I thought it was the best thing ever. Right? It was pre-COVID. I didn't get to travel the world for my job and see all these better shows. I used to love it. Right? But my budget was $40. Right? So if your budget's $40, go to White Plains. It'll be a home run. I promise.
I'm sure there are still cards that you saw as a kid that are still available, which would be really funny. Because New Yorkers, they're tough, and that can be an issue too, obviously. But that just comes with the territory. We can't fix that one. That's a whole different podcast. I'm curious to see what happens. If you look at a show like the Burbank Card Show, for instance, they had all the backing of not only one of the major card shops, but then someone who was able to bring it to another level. EJ Dynasty Mode. I'm so bad with Instagram names. The point is, EJ's a phenomenal guy. He's been on this podcast a couple times. I love him. I have a lot of respect for him. And while he is stepping away from the Burbank Card Show, whatever avenue he chooses to go to and grow, I know he's going to crush. And if that was somehow, some way, an East Coast environment, I know for a fact he would grow into the next Burbank, and it'd be incredible.
Yeah, I think I asked him recently what he's getting into. He says that he's going to disclose it soon. So looking forward to that. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but he seems to be doing all these little models, like
he's following his passion, which is awesome.
Toys and models and things like that, which is amazing.
From the conversations that I had with him, it sounded like running the show is a thankless job. It's awful. You're working 15, 20 hours, making sure everyone's like happy and comfortable and like you solve all the issues. And I think he needed a break, and I understand that entirely. I can only speak for myself. I thanked him significantly for what he did, what he's gonna do. And I think that he needed a little time to slow down. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, obviously, but I respect that a lot. And if that's how he chooses to relax in his free time, he's fucking earned it.
I have a question for you both, not to be the negative Nancy here, but
go for it.
Some of these shows that have popped up over the years, right? I'm not going to call any out by name. Do you think we start to lose card shows? Like, do you think people will stop sponsoring them and we'll get back to that more of like the 4 major card shows, and there won't be all of these pop-up card shows all over the country anymore?
Cheek, do you want to go first or should I?
I'll go, and then you can close.
Sure.
I actually think that they're making a lot of money on these shows, and so I also think there's something else happened. Right, last couple years, post COVID, everyone decided let's go be social again. That was the norm. I actually think a lot of the smaller shows are going to stay, and I think the reasoning is people like the engagement. The thing that's missing right now is how can the smaller shows provide more of an experience? And I think that is the one thing that I feel I'm missing. We're on the corporate side. We work for Alt. We're getting they're paying us to go to the shows. We're a different dynamic. But let's put ourselves in the eyes of a person that is a middle. When I mean middle of the line, I mean the asset value, like smaller cards. Like they're not going for the $40,000 cards, but they're traveling to a handful of shows a year. There's a lot of people like that. What kind of experiences the smaller shows cause other people to want to come to? And I think that is something that I wish that we did a little bit better. For instance, I would love it if some of them had a good map, which Burbank Card Show had a good map. Yeah. I would love it that there was actually a time when the athletes that come for signatures, if the showroom floor was not open at the same time. I actually would like it to be a separate time, whether it means like the showroom floor closes at 6 and then the athletes come on. Like the engagement that we get with the athletes is like one of the main reasons to want to go to a card show. But right now, it's like an afterthought, as in these are the people that want to see the athletes. They come and take their kids, and then everyone else is at the table trying to deal for the cards. There's no separation there, and I think there has to be a separation because the only reason we like to collect cards of people is because we also like their personalities.
I wouldn't agree with that last part, but I agree with everything else you said. I think there is something to making card shows an experience. There's a balance to it. I mean, once again, my perspective is as the vendor, as a dealer who is trying to benefit financially because I'm a piece of shit and I want to obviously make it financially successful. So there does need to be a balance between, hey, how do I maximize the most amount of people being at the show for the most amount of hours and who are interested in the most amount of my cards versus, yeah, that was really fun, but I sold nothing. And even though I personally am not the biggest fan of like the Atlanta card show that Prism God is doing, he has now in the last couple of years actually started to balance it out better because in 2021 when I first went to the show, like they were doing a basketball tournament during the show hours, and I really didn't like that because a lot of the vendors were being taken off the show floor. They were watching their friends try and be basketball players, which is really funny. And I personally did not like that because, hey, when I go to a show, me personally, I want to focus on the deals. I believe now for their show coming up in January, it's either after the show ends or like it's on Sunday, and they're actually doing it for charity as well, which I really like. So they've changed and like really morphed this into something I personally like a lot more. Once again, that's my opinion. So you don't have to like that, but that's what I personally
Not everyone's
think.
a sicko like you, Dave, and just wants to go and trade cardboard, like.
No, and there should be experiences, and that's a great thing. But when you're spending $2,000, $2,500 to be there, hey, I'm sorry, I'm personally going to focus on this.
You're coming from the dealer perspective, not just someone walking in the show.
Well, that's exactly it. And you know what? I can tell you too that people who just walked into the show, if there's empty tables there, it's going to leave a bad taste as well. So honestly, my perspective is.
I mean, I'm also thinking even for you. If you got more people to walk through a show, could you get more viable buyers?
Well, and you should want to maximize the show for what a show is. And then everything else you want to do extra, awesome. There's a way to plan it, but I'm also not a showrunner. So what the fuck does my opinion mean?
I will say, so the reason I asked you guys a question is Alt was at the Del Mar card show. I wasn't going to say it by name, but I said it last month. And at the end of the show, it was so bad that the people who set up the show said they will never do this again. And I was wondering if as we have all these shows all over the country and they become less and less important, right? Because you can find one every single weekend, if that's going to start happening to other shows.
I think it will.
Isn't worth the squeeze. And I think that's like the first domino to fall, right? That's a warm weather state. There's a lot of distractions there. It's a little different, but I think we're going to start to see more of that because there is so many. And me personally, I like that. It brings something special back to the card shows, right? If they're happening all the time, then they're not as special to me. So I like the consolidation. I'm all for entrepreneurship. Like if you want to start a show, go do it, bro. Rip it. But I also think that to have the special side of card shows, they can't be going on 7 in one weekend all over the country. To me, it's kind of.
I do think that nobody wants to do this. You kind of can't do it now. You have to actually plan it out 1 year in advance, but or more. But if you think about, I'll give you an example. So I live near Staples Center, like an hour away. They have concerts and they have the Lakers games, and then they still have the Clippers games. They have the organization that they can't double book, or if they double book, has to be X amount of hours apart. I think there needs to be something like that for sports cards, and it can't happen in 2024. It's too soon, but maybe like a 2025 thing where if you have a 500 plus table show, you get call it 600 plus table show, you get dedicated for the weekend. That's your show.
Okay, that's it. David Blutstein, you are now in charge of making sure no one does any shows.
Hear ye, hear ye. We grant David Blutstein as authority figure to schedule card shows in 2025.
I'm going to put the dick back in dictator because this is going to go really badly first. Terrible decision. You guys fucked up because showrunners don't even like each other that much. What the fuck do you think is going to happen? Dude, the guy who runs the Nashville card show has directly said he wants to compete with Dallas. So he'll schedule his show for either right around the same weekend or the same weekend. So
this brings up another light, okay? I don't know the allure of certain card shows in the future. And that's what I'm trying to say. I think that if you want a chance to stay in the game long, the experience is what's going to get you that chance. If you want to return to what it was like in the 90s and 2000s, those are not all the people that are going to these shows now. And so what I'm trying to tell you is things have to change. And if you want to stick with the same, you will last in the short term, but can you last in the long term? Because even if you don't want to do it, someone in your city might want to create something new and exciting.
Yes. I mean, I can already tell you right now that my show schedule for 2024 is, for a fact, all 6 Dallas shows, or at least 5 of them, based on when the June or July show gets announced. I'm going to all of them because I have a table, I'm booked, I'm going, no matter what.
It's good business.
The Chicago Spectacular does twice a year. I'm going to both. Go to that one this weekend. It's going to be awesome. I like that show a lot. I am willing to explore other shows. I went to Nashville a couple times. I've had mixed results. Probably not going to go back there in 2024, but it might change. I want to go to like the Midwest Monster. I might go to Chantilly. I believe, Burbank also, actually. Let me fix that. Go to Burbank too, 100%.
Go to Denver.
Denver's on that list as well as a possible option. There is opportunity to expand and bring, I would call myself an above average dealer. I think that most shows would benefit from having people like me setting up. I bring cash, I sell, I trade, very active. I promote shows. I want things to be good. Like I would call myself a pretty good candidate for a show. Like, and you want people like me attending without sounding too arrogant. But there is a balance to it. I'm also a real fucking human being. I don't want to be at shows every single weekend. So there has to be a little bit of gap between them. Because, yeah, I already know that, hey, if I'm going to Dallas in 6 weeks, maybe I want to go to one more show, maybe a small local show as well in between. Like, how do you balance it all? And those who do it full time don't have a balance, but that's not the vast majority of people who are going to be attending your show. You know, they're not doing it full time.
And Dave, here's something interesting. So 6-7 years ago, we weren't dealers at a show.
No,
we were the walkers. You were the consumers. Okay.
Yep.
Gosh, that sounded like a Walking Dead thing. But
yeah,
no,
is that show still going? By the way,
huh?
Is The Walking Dead still going?
No, I think it's over.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
So anyway, so we were walking the showroom, and we weren't dealers. Now anyone can become a dealer. So there have been a lot of hobby noise about the cost of a table and how the cost of the table has gone up.
Yep.
The one thing that is interesting about that is if you don't have quality enough cards, you're not going to be making the profit back for the amount that it's going to cost you for the trip, the flight, to set up a table. So indirectly, by them raising the cost of the table, you're going to be taking probably people out of the mix that want to have a table. It's going to be an interesting dynamic as card prices also going down.
Is that a bad thing, though? I mean, unfortunately, not everyone who wants to have a show financially should. Now, if you're doing it as a hobby, that's perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. But if you're setting up a show, you have at least some monetary investment in it, because now you're spending money on your showcases, either to rent them or buy them. You're spending your weekend time there, possibly also a Friday as well if you're going for a major show, or at a minimum a Saturday or Sunday. You're bringing your inventory, yourself, your food, whatever other expenses. If you're traveling, gas money, you have some kind of financial incentive to have the best quality cards you can. Mm-hmm. If a $300 table charge scares you off, maybe you're not ready for that yet. And that's fine. Yeah. You don't have to be. But
Dave, like when you have a show, right? And it's okay if you don't sell a lot and you don't people will say, oh, well, if they're not going to move their prices to sell, I don't really want them at our show. Okay, cool, fine. People have that opinion. But if you think about it, at a show, if I'm a showrunner, I'm thinking, who's going to provide me liquidity in that room so that people can keep trading, people can keep buying, people can keep selling, and the engagement becomes high, right? So we just a plug, Alt is doing that in that room. We know that we're a liquidity plug. We run an auction house. But think about some of the other people that we know in the industry. Like, you're one of them. I know you love to trade. It's like a thing. You love trading. I know numerous other people where you can literally walk up to them and they'll almost take anything, and maybe you can find something on their table because they have showcase of cards that you can choose from. it might end up becoming where we'll get really good quality because these guys are raising the price of the table.
The floor will be raised, of course. And I think that's just a normal thing that goes on as costs increase. One thing I'm curious about, and I wrote this question down as you were talking, Sheik, is obviously you guys work for Alt. Obviously, it's changed your professional lives, it's changed your personal lives in terms of collecting. But like, in what way? How have you noticed that the way you collect cards, the way you deal with shows, is different now on the corporate side versus the collector side, or even on the dealer side? Had you done that before?
I can go first. So I'll touch on it on both ways, from a collecting side and then how I approach the card show side, since we've had such a discussion on shows.
Perfect.
From the collecting side, it's almost desensitized me to rare assets in a sense. I've seen so many amazing cards. Amazing cards have come through the vault. We have an alt fund, which has some of the best cards in the entire world in it. And it puts it into perspective sometimes how crappy the cards I'm buying are when I'm seeing these amazing pieces. So it's desensitized me to rarity, and like it's almost made me want to level up into just the grail assets instead of flipping and putting in the work on like the $200, $300 assets. That's something I would like to get back into at some point. I don't like being desensitized to $300 Derek Jeter autographs. Like I don't like that because that was not where I was. That was like my bread and butter through college, paying through college, flipping cards. Like that was like my hobby. And now I've been exposed to a lot of large money, a lot of amazing pieces, and it's desensitized me to the average card in the hobby, in a way. And then from the show perspective, my experience actually has been I work harder. Maybe I'm being a little, I don't know, but I work harder when I'm working for somebody else than when I'm working for myself. When I went to the shows for myself, I goofed around, right? I had a few beers. I was drunk at 4 p.m. Like I was flipping cards. I didn't care. The money was also easier in cards back then, without a doubt. You could go to a show and get drunk at 2 p.m. because you made 15 grand in the morning flipping a Tim Duncan refractor that doubled on eBay overnight on One Buy It Now, right?
So good. Best time.
Right. So I was way more laid back at the shows. I wasn't like strategic in how I was going to hit the show. Since switching to alt, I've taken a much more like serious approach while still being myself. I make sure I hit everything I have to hit, work until the buzzer, because it's not for me. I'm working for all of my colleagues as well, right? Kaushik being one of them. If I don't do my job, then everyone else suffers. And similarly, if they don't do their job, then when I'm at the show, I'm getting middle fingers saying, F you, bad customer experience, F you this. So everyone has to do their part, and they're helping me, right? They're leveling up. So in return, I'm going to go to the show and work my ass off to make sure I'm doing the best for the company. Where when it was my own money, I would go there and, like I said, get drunk at 2 p.m. and mess around a lot more. So that's how it's changed the shows for me. It's made me a lot more strategic and serious in my approach.
What a well thought out answer. I did not expect that. You should be drinking at 9 a.m. You should wake up with a beer in your hand. Anyway, Sheik, your turn. What are your thoughts?
He's going to make me look bad now. Okay. So essentially, right, I started collecting just because that's kind of what I was doing even before cards. I used to collect quarters. I used to, even like, I would actually, it sounds nerdy, but I would actually like document leaves. Like, and I would actually like, that would be like one of the things. I was like collecting as many different breeds of leaves and putting them into like a binder, like when we were kids. Like those are some of the things that I used to do. And it was just like, it's like that whole Pokemon phrase, you got to catch them all. Like seriously. So anyway, so that's how I started in the hobby. And what kind of changed my whole perception was when I made my group of friends during the boom. And I wasn't earning, great income because I was just starting out my career elsewhere outside of alt. So I was like, this is a chance to flip. Let's make money. Let's grade. Let's do what we got to do to make the money. So I went through a complete different trajectory from let's doing this for fun, but let's do this for money. And what's changed for me, I think, and it still was like this when I first joined alt too, because I was coming from a flip culture into alt. And then if you think about it, alt actually, 2 years ago, you would say they specialize in modern cards, modern serial numbered cards is the stuff that Alt specializes in. And so what's completely changed for me now is I almost don't care too much about the flipping because I had started losing joy of 4 cards. So I had to make the switch mentally back to where my origin was, which is start going back to your sets. So Dave, like we speak all the time. I don't
Yep.
really talk a lot about flipping anymore. I'm really like the pictures that I send you, they're all for like different rare like sets that I'm trying to chase for. So
Yeah.
I've completely made the switch there. I do have a couple of grails. I do not want to announce what those are because don't want someone to run the price up on me. But
That's
when I
fine.
get the opportunity, I will go after a couple of those grails. I still want them, but I'm going back to the beginning of what I love, and that is $6 Luol Deng cards of a set that I've chased for 3 years. Like that is the kind of stuff I like now. And I know it's like your life and things change. Give me a year, Dave. I probably will go back to flip culture for a little bit. It just
But
happens.
No.
Well,
I
that's
like
perfect.
$6 Luau Dang sheet way better. That's it.
Here's the thing, Sheik, is that you're absolutely right. And what's interesting, and I'm not sure if you made the connection yourself yet or not, you also just started a podcast called The Short Print, I believe, right?
Mhm.
So I believe as of now, your first episode just came out. I've not had a chance to listen yet, so forgive me. But is that kind of what inspired that transition back to being a true collector? Was the podcast or the idea that what started it, or was it the other way around? And you actually want to just talk about your journey?
So let's just talk about it for something, right? And I'll tie Alt into this somehow too. We're collecting. People buy stuff, and we're trying to figure out what the value is of what they're buying. But a lot of times, someone will just buy it because they want it. And so what I have like thought about was, gosh, there's just so much content about the market price of an asset. But I don't feel like there's enough content as to why the heck people even want that card. Like, is it only monetary? Do you only want the card because it's X price and you got it for a steal? You know, I'm that's the way I've been thinking about. And so this project that I'm doing, this podcast that I'm doing, is solely strictly focused on what makes cards special and why are they special. And if there are some cards that need to be called out for being too special for no reason, that's another reason that I wanted to make that podcast. But essentially, that's what it's going to be about. It's just talking about the love of the cards and not really focusing so much on asset value. It's just about why we have a passion for things. That's it.
I love that sheet. Off the top of your head, what are the top 3 most overrated sports cards in the hobby?
Ooh.
Oh, juicy. Okay, number 1 is NTRPAs out of 99.
Okay.
That's number 1. Number 2, and you guys, here's a nice trend because I will tell you this: Alt, if anything, has lots of metrics, lots of data. We track everything, and we're even graded upon that. Matt knows this. We have lots of things that we're graded upon on our success rate. Here's one for you: veteran gold prisms, not doing too hot. They're going down quite a bit. They're a little there's maybe too many of them. Like if you want a Dwayne Wade, now there's over 100 of them over across all years. So now the question is, do you just want to collect them? Go collect them. But then do you want to pay up for the PSA 10? That's on you. But essentially there's so much supply. And then I would say the third, probably most overrated is man.
There's some spicy answers you could throw out there because, like, the 86 Fleer is not Jordan's rookie year. The 52 Tops is not Mantle's rookie year. Like, you could throw out some like nuclear takes if you wanted to.
Well, here's a nuclear take: Jordan inserts that are PSA 10s.
That's not as bad of a take though anymore because they really have actually come down in price. I think people, especially in the PSA 10 variety, have realized, why am I paying so much premium for this? Like,
They keep going up. I just keep seeing charts that they're going up. They don't sell very often.
which ones are you talking about? Because I've seen some that have gone down.
Different stuff like linchpins, like
Oh, well,
Rave.
we'll use the what's it? The Platinum Portrait Chic is in the current liquid auction, right?
Yeah.
So the Beckett 9.5 of that card trades at $13,000.
I
The
know.
last two comps on the PSA 10 are 90,000 and 75,000, and that's in Q4 2023. So someone is paying 5 times as much for the PSA 10 holder versus the 9.5 holder, and this is all while, as an industry, we've said we've become smarter. I
But
guess
also, that's an anomaly, though. This is true, Dave. This is an anomaly. PSA 10 and BGS 9.5 gap is shrinking in a lot of areas. We're seeing that. We're seeing it.
No, I think. Listen, if anything else, I want a smarter hobby. I want a smarter industry. Obviously, there are those who don't because they financially benefit, and frankly, obviously, we do too. But there was a difference to it. You can't. I mean, people tell you buy the card, not the grade. Yet you're seeing even there the difference in a 9.5 versus a 10. When virtually, I guarantee you, most people cannot tell the difference between those two cards. Had they just been like shown it raw, is $60,000, which
do
is
you think it's a registry thing? Is it a preference thing still? It very well could be a preference thing, or is it more of a price manipulation thing, right? Like there's less PSA 10, so it's easier to price fix that this card's still worth 70,000, whereas the 9.5, I think the pop is 2 or 3 times higher.
I truly believe it's psychological. I really do. I think the 10 is so important. It's so important mentally to have the 10 because you think perfection and you want everything to be perfection. And I think that's why people are still going to be willing to pay the premium on it. And Dave, I did say earlier that I care about the $6 Luol Deng card.
Yep.
But Dave, I'm chasing 500 cards like that. So that starts adding up on junk cards like that. And so I do need to flip a little bit to pay for those stuff. But that's what I do. I try to flip a little bit so I can pay for some of those junk cards.
The flip to collect, right?
Yeah, that's where I am.
But I will say, if you're gonna flip in this space, you better be on your game. If you slack, this market will eat you up, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if you're flipping to collect, the flipping has to be as passionate as the collecting right now. It can't just be a lackadaisical flipping a little bit so I can buy cards. Like the flipping has to be top priority and the collecting second priority, or the flipping won't work. That's what I'm seeing. Like you have to be on top of your game right now.
You really do. I mean, it's easy to make money in good times. Now in the bad times, quote unquote, it's obviously like this is where people stay forever or leave. I can tell you my collection size, like of cards I actually truly own, is very small. I decided to go the route of, all right, I'll buy game-worn jerseys for probably cheaper. Like I had a lot of like game-worn logo patches of stuff that I really loved. I sold a bunch of it off. And the jerseys I have now are worth less than the logo patches I had, but frankly are fucking cooler. Like a lot of them are signed, a lot of them are people that I liked growing up or even still are currently playing. And it's just like, yeah, I like that more. This is cooler. And this is something I will appreciate more than the patch, which I think is game worn. But we know that there's obviously some shenanigans going on here from time to time.
No. And I think that perspective comes when you start buying memorabilia. When I was looking for a couple of my favorite players signed jerseys, that hit me. I was like, God damn it, sports cards are overpriced. And that hit me.
Matt, you know what's this is what's really interesting, and you brought up game used memorabilia. I had a close friend message me last week and said, they asked me 2 questions. How the heck do I know what the proper price is of game used memorabilia? And the number 2 question that they asked me is, who can I trust in that area? Number 1, I told them it's extremely difficult. You have to go through sold history on numerous platforms, and then you don't know if those got paid or not. It's really, really difficult on those. Number 2, I feel like at least the people I know in sports cards and in game used, they all know each other. So are they, just like how we always are, like, we know what cards are coming up. And so I think it's tough. There's not enough transparency in the game used memorabilia space yet. And I think it's coming. There will be something that comes up that either tracks the price or helps you understand what is rare and what is not. So, for instance, Dave, I have a second-year Devin Booker game used jersey. It's photo matched to 6 games.
Sick.
Right.
And it is got like 150 points, played against the Lakers, things like that. But now Devin Booker changes his jersey every single game. So now you're talking about, he probably keeps some in an 82 game season. So call it 30 to 40 available. And Migray has rights to some of them, 30% of all NBA game used jerseys every year. But today, Sotheby's announced that they are now going to be the direct sponsor for those game used jerseys. They're going to start running them in their auctions. And
Correct.
you and I both know Sotheby's is crazy. Like there's some crazy things that go for crazy prices. I don't know what that means for game use, but they have rights to some of the players' game use stuff. And in the NFL, their agent usually sells game used jerseys because they know that it's worth a lot of money. And sometimes the NFL player gives the jerseys to the agent. It's kind of interesting industry. It's completely fragmented compared to sports cards.
So I was checking this out because NC basketball is launching tomorrow. I think it officially comes out. I think people are opening boxes now. And Paolo, obviously, his NTRPA is going to go for stupid money. I believe some have already sold. I believe one 1099 did 57.50. I'm going to double check real quick. And I was curious because I want to see what his rookie jerseys were going for. And because Sotheby bought an NBA auction today, I can get on the website. It was being stupid. But according to Google, his game-worn icon jersey from his NBA debut did $75,000. And then a random one, game-worn statement jersey, did $8,200, which is a lot of money. And no one's going to say that otherwise. But I was trying to compare those versus the NTRPAs. And as a collector, what would I rather own versus like the investor / flipper? It's kind of crazy when you think about it, because those are both game-worn rookie jerseys with the certs, and assuming that I can find the Paulo sale for $57.50, I'm kind of leaning towards having the jersey.
I think Kaushik's trying to tell me a little bit. I think it depends on how often they switch the jerseys out, right? If Paolo starts switching his jerseys out every halftime at every game, right, then I don't want a game used jersey. He wore it for one half, the first half of game 47 in the regular season. Then I prefer the NTRPA. When that jersey has importance to it, then I prefer the jersey.
Like Dave, if it was like Paolo's first playoff win, I want that jersey over NTRPA. But if it's a regular season game where he scored me 6 points, I'll take the NTRPA.
You're 100%.
Okay? I still have an affinity to cards. I'm just telling you that like there's levels to that.
There's one number to 8 right now at auction. That's ending in 2 days from MC. $14,000.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, I think one on Card Hobby actually. I think it went unpaid, and then the guy did a 1 day, and it sold for like $5,500 or something like that.
Okay, that was the one I was talking about. Thank you.
Yeah.
As a collector, I prefer the jersey. As like, let's be real, I know what I can move easier. It's clearly the card, but the jersey will always be cooler to me. There's a weird parallel here. Hell, and this conversation is ironic because the most expensive item I've ever gone for is a jersey, and I'm going after it this week. And we'll see what happens if I come back and talk about this next week and my thoughts, because
Dave,
I've been doing a lot of research into something lately that is quite crazy.
Here's a good question, or here's a really good question for you. The people that are going to be buying the Paolo Banchero NTRPAs, or I guess what is it, Chet's year too? Chet's coming out. Yeah. What do you think the average hold time is going to be on that card? 14 days?
12 hours, 30 minutes.
Oh no, they might send the grading.
That's fair. 2 weeks. All right. Yeah, get it out. Get it out. Don't even own it. I do wonder though, because people are obviously getting burnt on all these cards. Like, no matter what, you can be the greatest player of all time. There is a decline that happens inevitably. No matter who you are, at some point in time, the prices will drop. Right. Either because like people are not interested in your cards anymore, or you get hurt, or you play badly, or whatever reason. The market will always respond with a negative drop at some point in time. That's every single player. Who the fuck is owning these assets now and it plans on owning them for years? That's what I want to figure out, because
they're probably people we don't know.
They probably are, or they're people that got hoodwinked, ripped off, didn't know any better, and now are holding junk. Because even now, I mentioned this to Kyle last week, I'm going to bring up the same point here. Let's look at the NFL quarterbacks. Let's look at the guys who really got their prices hiked when the sports car market boomed. So it's like 2018, 2019, 2020. That's like Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Lamar, maybe Mahomes, depending on how his career goes, Herbert, Tua, all these guys. Their prices compared to their contemporaries of 5 years prior is astronomical. What does Russell Wilson sell like compared to Tua? What does Russell Wilson sell like compared to Josh Allen?
Yeah, well,
And
so I've been through a couple of these cycles, and in my opinion, what happens is there's a year, and I don't know what year that is. Maybe it's year 6, maybe it's year 5, year 7, and you transition from investors buying the player to then collectors buying the player, right? People stop investing at year 7 and year 8, and at that point, it's strictly collectors of the player. And it happened last time with all the contemporaries, and it's going to happen again.
yes,
it's already starting. I think now. Like, I mean, look at some of these Kobe prices. It's already starting to go into collector hands. I've seen some Kobe's that have been moved around 3 or 4 times, but I know the guy that just recently got him. He's not gonna move it.
And so, but even away from Kobe's, right? We'll go into active. So in year 3, Patrick Mahomes, when people were buying him, they were buying him with the intention of them going up.
Mm-hmm.
Now people are buying Patrick Mahomes cards knowing that Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in football, right? Their collectors are buying the Patrick Mahomes cards at this point. It's not buying to see 2x returns because he can't do anything this season to double. He could go out for the rest of the season, throw 37 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. His cards will not double. But if he was a year 3 quarterback and he threw 37 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, his cards would triple, quadruple. Mm-hmm. So there's like, in year 7, people aren't investing and speculating. They're collecting and long-term investing. Whereas, like, if Kenny Pickett, all of that money coming in was pure speculation. There's no collector money coming into the Pickett market. Pure speculator money.
They're going to be collectors of them soon because those are going to go to 0. Just like Justin Fields, just like Jordan Love, and just like Desmond Ridder and Daniel Jones. Because pain is all I know.
Oh, God. I'm a Giants fan.
Yeah.
I think, are we all Giants fans here?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, actually.
We don't need to talk about that.
Dave, I got a question for you though. This is a question about, and this is like, it's part of flipping. But it's also a lot of collecting here. Do you ever buy a card of a player just to be like, I want to be right on this guy? Like, I just feel like I'm going to be right on this guy. And if I'm right, I'm going to make a lot of money, but I want to be right. Like, I'm going to buy him now and everybody's talking crap about him, but I'm going to buy him and I'm going to win.
Oh, that's a good question. Because the number one thing this is going to be shocking to both of you. The one thing I hate more than anything else in the entire fucking world is losing. I hate to lose so much. It drives me crazy. I want to be right more than anything else. And when I was right, for instance, last year when I was fucking really down on Zion, I made sure to post about it every single chance I could. I was really down on Justin Fields this year. I posted about it plenty because I was right. In terms of players I bought just to buck the trend, I don't know. It's so tough to say because in order to be right about those players, you either have to buy like their Bowman Chromes if you're going baseball, or you have to buy so early on in like the quarterback cycle, or there has to be a product good enough in the quarterback cycle where it's like, all right, yeah, I nailed it.
Wait a second. You have loved being right about your NPB guy.
So that's a fair point. And I was going to get to that. Thank you, Sheik. Yeah. So yes, the only parallel that I can really say about being right is the NPB stuff, because Sheik and Matt, there's a legitimate chance I might be the most prolific ripper of NPB cards in the U.S.
There's not a chance you are.
Yeah. I want to split these out, though. So Dave knows cards. No doubt, bro. Dave he has spent his entire life in cards. When he's gambling on NPB, he's gambling that the industry he knows will catch on to this. When someone is speculating on Desmond Ridder or Sam Howell or any player, NFL teams, MLB front offices, NBA front offices spend millions of fucking dollars millions, tens of millions of dollars trying to figure out is this guy going to be good? And you're telling me Joe Schmo on his couch over here, because he watched fourth quarter highlights of one game, knows Kenny Pickett is going to be the next Joe Montana, right? And that's where you
right.
there. Because I don't give a shit if you're right or wrong, because you had no impact on any of that. And you got lucky if you were right. And if you're wrong, good, because you fucking gambled. So if those guys, if the best scouts in the world can't hit at 100% rate, if the best analytics teams in the world, I refuse to believe that Joe Schmo card collector knew that this guy was going to be him. Like, I don't care what they say. I don't care. They got lucky every single time.
But it's nice to be right, though.
It's nice.
It's a nice feeling. It's a nice feeling. That's all I'm saying.
But you're just guessing. Like, you could be as sold as you freaking want, but you're guessing. Like, you don't know that player's personality. You didn't know John Morant was going to pull a gun out in the car. You didn't know Zion Williamson.
That is the one thing that we don't know. We don't know work ethic, right? No matter what anybody says, like, people will say, "Oh, this guy has so much talent. He didn't have to do anything." That's cool. That probably got you into the door of your professional league. But it seems like the common trend I keep seeing is these guys work hard every single day. And if you think about even careers, that's like the number one thing.
100%.
Like, you have to have a base level talent, but that talent can only get you so far. Like, it's just that work ethic. I wish we were able to see player work ethic more. Like we used, like, we got to actually, like, for instance, when they were saying, like, in this day and age, Dave, there was like video of like Kobe being in the gym at 4 a.m. or something like that, or Jimmy Butler being in the gym at 4 a.m.
Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
God, I hate Ben Simmons. I hate him so much.
But essentially, without social media, I don't even know if we would have known any of that. You know, we would have known, like, we have completely different perceptions of athletes. Like, I don't even know what the old school players were like.
I mean, Michael Jordan used to go gamble at 3 a.m. before the finals, so, you know.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify there. I'm not against speculating on players, right? Because that's how you get outsized returns. You buy young, and then if they pop off, you make good money. What I dislike is when Joe Schmo on his couch says, "I called it. Like, I knew Sam Howell was gonna be him. I knew it." And, like, no, you didn't, man. No, you didn't. You bought some cards because Sam Howell he played one game last year. One game, right? And he had a really bad senior year at UNC. So anyone who was buying those cards this summer had no idea if he was going to be good or bad. None.
Oh, you'll hear a lot of people say that about CJ Stroud.
Yeah, right.
They knew he was going to be. I think he's good.
I mean, not for nothing. Hang on, I'm just checking when Sam Howell was drafted. I think it was a 5th round pick.
5th round, right?
Yeah, he was a 5th round pick. So you're telling me that the best scouts in the entire world passed on this quarterback not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 times if you had all your picks.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, Sam Howell's been good. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that if he was this amazing player that everyone thought he was going to be, and you called it, you would have not drafted in the 5th round. But you know,
right. And then you'll hear, but Tom Brady. So, and the caveat to that is NFL scouting departments and analytics departments in 2023 are not NFL scouting departments and analytics departments in 2000.
So this
look at Brock Purdy, for instance, too. Brock Purdy was the literal last pick in the draft.
Yes.
And has very much proven to be a pretty good quarterback. I don't know if you want to buy his cards, but we can have that conversation if we want to.
Dave, I'm from Kentucky, and I watched every game of Will Levis. And I was telling myself, it's like, okay, he's probably worthy of a top 2-3 round pick, but man, he always, he turned the ball over in times where you're not supposed to turn the ball over. Albeit SEC, very tough, but he's proving me wrong. I think someone asked me, should I buy Will Levis? I told him no. And whatever, let him do that. But that's what I'm trying to say. Like, we don't have the inside details. We don't know what their nutrition plan is. We don't know what they're learning, right? Like, we all get better at our jobs because we are learning every day about different things to improve. We don't know if that guy's doing that. That's the only thing that we can't see. The only thing we do see is if he makes a funny joke to a reporter, or he throws a 4th down touchdown catch. Was it because the guy blew the coverage, or the guy is actually a really good quarterback? That's the question I'm trying to figure out. I almost am thinking, like, there's just too many variables, but if you want me to be honest, that's kind of what makes the hobby fun.
100%. Just don't throw it in people's face when you bought one card and it went up because there's 7 other losers. That's it. Like, because you got lucky.
There's more than 7 other losers. I mean, it's really sad. I don't know, man. I'm not sure where the market's gonna go, but all I can tell you is that people who were right will tell you, and people that were wrong will delete their stories and never reference them again. If you call them out on it, you are in fact a hater. So, oh well. Kaushik, Matt, anything else you want to talk about? Or we are literally at an hour, and we could go for more. I know we could.
I'll throw in here. I'm pretty happy I got changed into this hoodie right before because I was wearing the same exact shirt as Kaushik, and it would have been really
so fucking
embarrassing.
Oh, you guys could have been matching. It would have been so cute.
It's all good. Pretty much, actually, like I'm just looking. If you really think about it, even me personally, okay, I'm looking about like how can it be easier for me to buy and sell, and those are the two things I'm focusing on. Is it easier for me to sell? Is it easier for me to buy? And honestly, like just the last little plug, like I think that's what Alt's kind of working on this next year. Can we make it easier on David Blutstein's life? That is what I think it's going to be all about. Because if we do make it easier for people, then people will want to use us.
All right. Well, let's turn it on Dave. We have 1 minute, I think. He usually limits us to an hour. What's the one thing you want to see in the hobby in the next 6 months?
I want to see a smarter industry. I want to see people that are willing to accept their losses, that are willing to think critically about what they're doing and why, and are willing to make it a community in a way. Because I've said this for a while, and I'll stand by it. Sports cards is a group of one. It's a hobby of one group together. We're all alone. So how do we make sure we actually build each other up and promote something that is togetherness? Because I really do feel that we're all out for ourselves, but we are grouped together in a way. How do you change that? Make it more welcoming. Make it more accessible. Make it in a way that the people who are truly out there financially for themselves are known and they're understood. That's completely fine. But at least understand it. Because right now, we're all just kind of existing and it's not the best.
Yeah, I mean, our best form of communication now is a group chat. I wonder if there's another form that's better than that. That's what we have to think about.
Yeah, and I think nothing speaks better to this than Dave's shitty eBay messages when he gets them from these users telling them all sorts of crazy things, how much we are not a community. Yeah.
No, and first off, I'll touch on it real quick. Yes, sir, if there's a best offer button, use it. It's fine. You want to make a best offer, that's fine.
That doesn't seem like a very pro-community response.
I didn't say me. I'm a piece of shit. I've never claimed to be anything.
Yeah.
I never claimed to be nice. Did I not tell you before I was going to put the dick in dictator? So, excuse you, sir. You're not getting on the right podcast to be nice. You're getting on this podcast to be honest. And with that note, gentlemen, we keep going. We're not going to, though. I want to go eat dinner. And I'm sure you guys want to go either go eat dinner yourself, Matt, or Sheik. I'm sure there's other stuff you can do because you're on the West Coast, which is perfectly fine. So thank you, Matt and Sheik, for joining. Next week, I believe we're going to have on one of our other friends from our group chat, someone who, when this podcast started, I really wanted to have on it. He's been working at Layton for the last couple of years. We're going to have Lane on, hopefully, based on schedules. And obviously Thanksgiving could be a little finicky. But that is our probable next guest, and maybe Kyle make an appearance as well because that fucking asshole did not make this podcast because he's a dick. Later, guys. Thank you for watching.